Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the North Node transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. Now, on average, the North Node will traverse a house for approximately a year and a half. However, if your house size is a little bit larger than average, then the North Node will be in there for a little bit of a longer duration. If your house size is a little bit smaller than average, then the North Node will be in there for a little bit of a shorter period. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I'll look at is when the North Node transits one's natal 12th house. Well, this could be about that little short karmic mission and purpose in that person's life for the year and a half on average, as I mentioned before. And anyway, and that mission purpose for that time may be perhaps connected with introspection, more introversion, more time to your private life and your solitude and seclusion. When you have the North Node transiting the 12th house, of course, the South Node is transiting the 6th. And this could be a thing where you may, with the South Node transiting the 6th, you may feel perhaps dominated by your work, your service you provide to others. You might be overly fixated on getting yourself in shape or being healthy, physically fit and healthy. While this is not wrong, at the same time, anything could get a little bit monotonous. All work, what's the saying, all work and no play makes someone a dull boy, or something like that. Well, when you have this transit, it's not necessarily about eradicating that energy of the South Node transiting the 6th. It's merely taking some of it and incorporating it into the 12th house. While the 12th house transit is more of your focal point, though, you could inject some of that South Node, that 6th house energy into the 12th. You could be perhaps of service to your own private life. Maybe it makes sure that your mental health is okay. Sometimes being dominated by work is not always good for someone, and sometimes it could be detrimental to one's mental health in some isolated cases. And this is a time where maybe you feel that even though you may be dominated by your work life, your employment life, or what have you, maybe you feel guilty of taking that time off, to have that time for solitude and seclusion, to relax. It's okay to be lethargic and lackadaisical every now and then. Everybody can have those periods from time to time. It's okay for contemplation, for meditation. Sometimes the best thing to do for one's mental health is just sometimes to be idle and just not to do anything. Be stagnant. It's okay. The 12th house is also it's a 12th house that governs spirituality and the metaphysical, which can be connected with astrology. If you're somebody that is very spiritual, maybe it's a time, maybe you've let some of that part go in your life because of the work situation, because you've been overly engrossed in work matters. And 12th house, as I stated before, is also associated with the metaphysical. If you're somebody perhaps connected with astrology somehow, maybe this is a time to get back into that. And really, this is also, you look at this transit and having a North Node transiting the 12th house, it's also about trying to get in touch with what our limitations are, what our restrictions are. When you have the South Node transiting the 6th, it could be a little bit of a distraction from really understanding that side of us, those what might sometimes be self-imposed limitations and restrictions even, because when you get so engrossed in work and in service and your physical health, being of service to other people, and in really getting so engrossed in your daily routine, you lose touch on some other things that are connected with the 12th house. And this is also this very important time for, as I stated before, the meditation, the introspection, the time to really have to yourself. And this could also be a time where you might bring that service energy of the 6th house into the 12th house to some degree. And maybe you might be of service to others that are less fortunate than you, bringing that work ethic of the 6th house. Maybe at some point working laboriously for somebody that's less fortunate than you, someone that might be facing oppression, somebody that's impoverished, the homeless, the hungry. Could even be maybe, I mean, the 12th house is connected with imprisonment. It could be even people that are in prison. Maybe if you're somebody that's spiritual, maybe it could be a time to mentor to those people. I have the South Node in Virgo in my natal chart, which is similar to having the South Node in, I mean, we're talking about a transit, but still, South Node in the 6th is similar to that. And I have the North Node in Pisces. So I understand in a way where sometimes it could be difficult to get away from doing this work and making sure, being really like perfectionists and being very meticulous and exacting about things, and really just sometimes about it's about letting yourself go from that, about not having to worry as much about those things, not having to be super scrupulous about every little thing. It's okay to let some things go once in a while and not always be Mr. Punctuality, Mr. Reliability. It's okay to, in some instances, to not have everything done at the same exact time every day. And that's something I've even had trouble getting out of with the South Node in Virgo. I mean, you don't have to get out of it completely, but still, I think a lot of times I still emphasize the South Node more than the North Node in Pisces. I just thought that was interesting, even though I'm well over 30, of course. Well, anyway, people, it's also important to look at the aspects, if any, that are made by this transit to your natal planets and points, as this could impact the transit. Now, let's say, for example, that you have the transiting North Node making a square in conjunct or opposition to your natal Mercury. Well, this may indicate you may have some difficulty verbalizing and articulating the things you need to address and confront. And being in the 12th house, these things might be tied into limitations, to your restrictions, and things perhaps associated with your private life in general. Well, let's take another example. Let's say that the transiting North Node is making a conjunction to your natal Venus. Well, this could be a time perhaps for all-encompassing need for improvement and development connected with monetary matters. And being in the 12th house, it could be something tied in to some behind-the-scenes work, or maybe something that you just do privately in solitude and seclusion. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the North Node transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I will be talking about Chiron transiting the 1st house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.